Growing up, I had a great love of history. And in the South, Tennessee in particular, the history of the American Civil War is seemingly everywhere you go. In fact, it doesn't just seem that way. Tennessee found itself with a unique distinction of being the only state to be fully occupied by the Union Army at the war's conclusion. The pages of history reveal that in every war there appears a man or woman whose courage and zeal stands out from all others. Such a man or woman may be a general or one of the lowest rank and file. Now, I won't pretend to say that the American Civil War is not a divisive subject. And I can assure you with this video, I will not argue one side or the other. But I am going to bring to light the story of one such man whose extra zeal was never in question. When his country called, when his state called, he stepped up and he paid the ultimate sacrifice. Today I'm very privileged to tell you the complete story of Sam Davis, boy hero of the Confederacy. Chapter 1: The Davis Family. Sam Davis was born on October the 6th, 1842, on a farm near Smyrna, Tennessee, in Rutherford County. Just 2 years earlier, the Davis household had been quite different. In 1840, Charles lost his first wife, Margaret Saunders, at the tender age of 36. Widowed and with 4 children, he had no idea that he would not be so for very long. He had the great fortune to meet Jane Simmons, also formerly of Virginia, and the two would wed in 1841. The combination of Davis's strict disciplinarianism, yet fair, mixed with the love and guidance from Jane, made for quite the environment for the children to succeed and to pursue those things that met their intellectual curiosity.
The original house built in 1810, which was kind of like that, just bigger. We bought that a little over 800 acres from Moses Ridley. He gave $20 an acre for it, which was a little over 800 acres, and he had it paid off in 3 years.
When Sam Davis was 5 or 6 years old, his father purchased a tract of land in the same community where he had lived for many years and where Sam had been born. There he built a more modern and commodious residence. The hope was that his sons and daughters could find comfort and pleasure and take pride in the new residence. On the walls of the new home would hang the portraits of many of their ancestors. These same portraits are still seen to this very day at the Sam Davis home. It was in these surroundings that the boy Sam grew to the age of 19 years, and the loving companionship with the mother he so closely resembled, the father he did not fear but respected, and his brothers and sisters with whom his leisure hours were spent in play. It can be said that of these 19 years were crafted the thoughts and ideals of a hero. To feel like you're truly stepping back in time, I highly encourage you to visit the Sam Davis Home and Museum.
They had around 220 hogs. Now, they utilized everything back in. So back in, they didn't have wax candles, they had lard candles. This is where they make their lard candles, right here.
At one time, Charles Lewis Davis had nearly 1,800 acres of land. And now today, the Sam Davis Memorial Association has been able to preserve 168 of those acres and made a magnificent museum and a home place for Sam Davis. It's truly a step back into the 19th century. I highly encourage you, if you have an opportunity to go to Smyrna, Tennessee, to check it out. Links will be in the description of this video. We thoroughly enjoyed our time there. The guides and historians at the residence were second to none. You will not be disappointed. In 1860, an 18-year-old Sam Davis decided it was time to further his education, and he would do so fairly nearby. Only about a mile east of Smyrna lay the school Union Church and Academy. Its founder, A.H. Sharp, would write in the Confederate Veteran about Sam's time there.
Among my pupils were 8 or 10 boys who in ages ranged from 16 to 18 years. Sam Davis was one such pupil. Although he was unassuming in his demeanor, he soon became a leader amongst the boys and would often umpire their trivial disputes. He did not remain in my school until the end of the term. After the election of the Lincoln to the presidency, Sam Davis left his home school for the Nashville Military Academy. A.H. Sharp, Nashville, Tennessee, 1911.
Sam's parents, feeling he had achieved all that he could in his home community. At 19 years of age, it was decided that Sam Davis would go on to the Nashville Military Academy. The Nashville Academy had been a merger of the Western Military Institute, formerly of Kentucky, its last location in Kentucky being Drennan Springs, and a merging of the Nashville University. In Drennan Springs, there would be an outbreak of sickness, which would force the move of the school to Tyree Springs, Tennessee, and then later to Nashville. The Nashville Military Academy's superintendent was Bushrod Rust Johnson, a West Point graduate and veteran of the 3rd U.S. Army Infantry. Bushrod would go on to great success as a Confederate general, despite having been born in Ohio and of Quaker parentage. Another luminary in the classroom who had a significant impact on Sam Davis was soon-to-be General Edmund Kirby Smith. Not only a brilliant man in terms of military tactics and understanding, but a great man of science, and he would go on to arguably be one of the greatest Confederate generals of the war. Sam Davis, therefore, was not only entered upon the roles of the most distinctive institution of learning in Middle Tennessee, but he fell under the influence of 2 great military officers who were destined to be among the great leaders of the Confederate armies in the desperate struggle which was already impending. In the fall of 1860, Sam Davis would leave home for the Nashville Military Academy and a journey of knowledge. Soon, not only his classmates, but teachers alike would come to regard the young Sam with great esteem. From a brochure at the time, the cost to attend the academy was $80 per term, some $1,200 in today's money. The academy, as Sam Davis knew it, ceased to exist in 1862 because of the outbreak of the Civil War. In 1867, long after the end of the war, it would reemerge, this time merging with the Montgomery Bell Academy, which still exists to this day. The building where Sam Davis went to college is still in existence. It has been a military hospital during the Civil War, a children's museum. It is also now used by the city for planning purposes. In 1861, Sam Davis's education would be cut short, as the lessons learned would now be put into practice. War had come.
Sweat fell from his brow. I knew he's trying to save my life when he cut that lead ball out. Give me some of that soldier's joy. Ain't you got no more? Hand me down my walking cane.
Chapter 2.
Ain't cut out.
Sam goes to war. Before the end of the school term in April 1861, the drumbeat of war had reached a fever pitch. And at barely 20 years of age, Sam Davis would heed its call. Sam and many of his classmates would put aside their school books and go into the real battle, that on the field. By joining the Confederacy, Sam would be attached to the Rutherford Rifles, recruited in his home Rutherford County. They would be under Captain William Ledbetter, Jr. of Murfreesboro, which became Company I of the 1st Tennessee Infantry. This command was that of General George Maney. And in the early days of the conflict, they were some of the first to volunteer.
You know what I crave.
Captain Ledbetter's father, William Sr., would also be involved in the conflict. But at the age of 61, he would have to be more in support. And support he would, volunteering to start up an armory in Murfreesboro. William Sr. would make sure that his son's company were one of the only companies in the Confederacy to have brand new rifles, a luxury at the time. On July the 10th of 1861, General Maney's regiment was ordered to Virginia at Valley Mountain. It was to be joined by the 7th and 14th Tennessee Infantry Regiments to form Brigadier General Samuel R. Anderson's brigade of Brigadier General William W. Loring's division, the Army of the Northwest. The regiment took part in the Cheat Mountain Campaign in West Virginia on September the 10th and the 15th. Although this was a minor action, this campaign is of interest because it was General Robert E. Lee's first campaign of the Civil War. Once again, we go to the valuable pages of the Confederate veteran to hear first-hand accounts from the soldiers who lived through it. The very distinguished Major R.H. Dudley would write about his time with Sam in these early skirmishes.
Sam Davis and I enlisted in the same company, 1st Tennessee Infantry. He was in every sense of the word a good soldier. I talked with Miss Davis frequently after the war about her son. She seemed to appreciate keenly the wonderful heroism he displayed. The best I can recall, he was transferred to the Coleman Scouts a few months before the awful sacrifice of life that he made without faltering. Major R.H. Dudley, Nashville, Tennessee.
Similar to his friend Sam Davis, Major Dudley would mean a great deal to the citizens of Tennessee, and at the urging of many influential citizens, would successfully run for and become mayor from 1897 into 1900. His brother, R.M. Dudley, opened the successful Gray and Dudley hardware store, which operated until 1986. Its building, which still stands, now houses the beautiful 21C Hotel and Museum. In the mountains of West Virginia, the campaign with the matchless leader, General Robert E. Lee, would continue. Sam Davis and his comrades had had their baptism of war, and in the summer and fall of 1861, they had taken part in thus far the unsuccessful campaign to hold the western area of the Old Dominion. Another skirmish would happen at Big Sewell Mountain, and although brave of heart, the campaign would remain unsuccessful. Later in December, the 1st Tennessee was ordered to join Stonewall Jackson at Winchester, Virginia, in the Virginia Valley. They were ordered to defend this against the Federal advance from the north and the west. And on Christmas Day of 1861, Sam Davis and his comrades tramped down the Valley Turnpike through the Virginia snow and bitter cold to join their new commander. Despite the conditions, Jackson and his troops persevered. They would serve as a stopgap for Union forces moving towards Richmond. The road Sam Davis and his fellow troops would travel would be perilous. Described at the time, the road was almost an uninterrupted sheet of ice, rendering it almost impossible for man or beast to travel, while by moonlight the beards of the men matted with ice glistened like crystals. Despite the harsh conditions, Jackson and his men would press on. Although his lofty goal of recapturing Western Virginia was not achieved, Jackson did succeed in both thwarting a Union attack on Winchester and in clearing his new Valley District of all Federal forces. Jackson also effectively used Winchester as a depot headquarters and a springboard for various raids against the B&O Railroad. Jackson's headquarters, while in Winchester, is preserved today as a museum. By early February, the disastrous news had reached Sam and the rest of the troops. Fort Henry had fallen. Commander Andrew Hull Foote on February the 6th and 7 gunboats had steamed up the Tennessee and attacked Fort Henry. The torpedoes placed in the stream, of which the Confederates had relied to destroy the Federal fleet, proved effective. The gunboats halted at a convenient distance and poured a storm of cannon shots and shell into the fort. At this point, they were forced to surrender. The opening of the Tennessee River was a tremendous blow to the South. Several of the gunboats proceeded up the river as far as Florence, Alabama, destroying bridges and Confederate property and making an effort to open a way for the advance of the Union Army into the Gulf states. Nashville, Tennessee was of vast importance to the Confederates. Valuable stores of all sorts had been collected there, and to capture Nashville would mean taking down Fort Donelson. That is just what the Union troops would do. Fort Donelson, which had at one point been under Bushrod Johnson, Sam's former teacher, would fall as Fort Henry had. Tennessee was ripe for the taking by Union forces. About this time, reinforcements were needed to help drive out the invaders, and the 1st Tennessee was called back to its native soil. Young Sam Davis and his comrades, tired and worn from battle, stuck to their duty, and when the 1st Tennessee was rushed to Corinth, Mississippi to join the Confederate forces concentrated there, he was with them. The ensuing Battle of Shiloh would be the bloodiest of the Civil War up to that point. It would see Generals Albert Sidney Johnston face off against General Ulysses S. Grant of the Union forces. Initial successes made this battle look like a foregone conclusion as a Confederate victory, but a huge loss, an irretrievable loss, would come in the form of the death of Albert Sidney Johnston himself. The Southern troops were kept in ignorance of the death of the commander in whom they had the greatest confidence. General Beauregard for a while carried on the contest, but he was sick and could not press his advantage to the utmost before his enemy could receive reinforcements. On day 2, the battle would renew with a vigor, and it would see the bloodiest battle to that point of the Civil War. In the end, the Confederates would have more than 10,000 casualties to the Federals' 13,500. Less than 12 months after Sam Davis entered service, the young Tennessee soldier had served under 4 of the ablest generals of the Confederacy. On October the 8th of 1862, Sam Davis would see his final service in a major battle, that of the Battle of Perryville. The border state of Kentucky had been coveted by both sides of the conflict because of its central location and its control of key rivers, particularly the Ohio River. In September of 1861, Abraham Lincoln would even remark, "I think to lose Kentucky is to nearly lose the entire game." Sam Davis and the 1st Tennessee Infantry would serve under the command of General Braxton Bragg and his Army of the Mississippi. And although initially the Confederacy won a tactical victory against primarily a single corps of troops under Major General Don Buell of the Ohio, the battle is considered a strategic Union victory because General Bragg was forced to withdraw to Tennessee soon thereafter. The Union Army would retain control of this critical border state for the remainder of the war. The Battle of Perryville had been costly for the Confederate cause, and even for Sam Davis directly. Injured slightly at the Battle of Shiloh, Sam Davis would have a more significant injury at the Battle of Perryville and would go home to recover. Sam had fought every battle put in his way with grace, with courage, and with determination. His family, overjoyed to see him home, they would mend him back to health because a very important role for him would be coming soon.